After everything that happened, I felt a strange sense of contentment, like I was rediscovering a part of myself. But there was still a question lingering. Would I live through that night again if given the chance? Honestly, I couldn't say, but I did know one thing: I'd never forget it. Every detail, every emotion, every bit of warmth, rediscovering what it means to feel like a woman, that was priceless at that moment. It felt like I'd conquered everything. A new me, a new woman. And maybe, just maybe, this was only the beginning. My step-grandson Kevin had come over to help me move. But after a long, exhausting day that dragged late into the night, the work still wasn't done. I was sweaty and bone-tired, so I had to hop in the shower. Little did I know what would unfold after I stepped out, what we'd experienced together. At that moment, surrounded by nothing but the silence of the water, I was completely unaware. Everything felt different. Kevin had come over to help, plain and simple. He's 29, young, handsome, and smart as a whip. After my husband Frank passed away far too soon, I'd been alone for years, struggling to piece my life back together. Holding on to this house and this life after Frank's death hadn't been easy. But when I called Kevin, he showed up in ways I never expected. "Everything's going to be okay," he told me. That day when I needed help, he was there. His presence was like a spark of hope inside me. I owed him, no doubt about it, not just for making the moving process easier, but for being so thoughtful and kind. But that also unsettled me. He's such a good kid, so polite and self-assured. Sometimes, though, I couldn't help feeling something that wasn't supposed to be there, a feeling I hadn't known before, and I tried to push it aside. At 62, I'd learned that some emotions just need to be tucked away. Thinking about all this, I finished my shower and gripped the edge of my robe tightly. My body, despite my age, still looked youthful and attractive. I kept up with regular exercise, and over the years, I hadn't seen much change in myself. "I've still got time to live, to feel," I whispered to myself. But even with that thought, the creeping loneliness of my age left me vulnerable at times. Heading to my room to change, I didn't realize Kevin was already there. I pushed the door open, and there he was, mid-change. Everything seemed to freeze, in place. His body, his muscles, the way he moved, it was all so deliberate, so striking. Seeing this 29-year-old man standing there stirred something deep within me. My eyes couldn't look away. It was like time itself hit pause. His calm, confident gaze spoke to me in a way I couldn't quite place. "Are you ready? Because this isn't just another story. This is a journey where boundaries blur, emotions collide, and unspoken confessions scream in silence. Every moment might awaken something you didn't know you felt, pushing the limits of your mind. If this is the kind of story you're curious about, subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. Support me." "I'm sorry," I muttered, my voice barely audible. "I shouldn't have seen you like this." That's when I noticed Kevin taking a step toward me. What was happening? What was I supposed to feel? There was an emptiness inside me, but at the same time, I felt drawn in, magnetized. In that moment, I didn't know what was going to happen, but one thing was clear. Everything was different now, and maybe this change had been brewing for a while. When Kevin noticed my gaze, he seemed a bit surprised, but he stayed calm, confident as ever. "It's okay," he said. "I shouldn't be here. The house is still a mess. So I thought this was the best spot to change. But you came out of the shower earlier than I expected. Sorry about that." His words only made me feel more uneasy. I hadn't even realized I'd gotten so close to him, physically and otherwise. "I'm really sorry, Kevin," I murmured, but my words felt weak. I turned around, unsure of what to do next. All I could think was that I needed to leave the room. A few seconds I couldn't process what had just happened. But then I moved quickly. "Just a second," I said. "I'll let you have some privacy." Right away, as I tried to gently close the door, I felt something strange deep inside, a void, a pull, curiosity. There was a nudge within me like I was supposed to chase something, though I didn't know what. Slowly I stepped out of the room, but I didn't shut the door completely. At that moment, something compelled me to watch, to give in to this hidden urge, a feeling I didn't recognize, one that made me feel far removed from my age. I found myself inching back toward the door, carefully and quietly, nudging it open just a little. Kevin was still in the process of changing. For a few seconds, just a few, I decided to watch. My eyes studied the way his messy hair fell over his forehead, the way his muscles flexed as he moved. I let him continue, completely unaware that I was there. Maybe he sensed something, maybe he didn't. But I wasn't ready to miss the moment. The tension in the room wrapped around me, filling me up with something I couldn't explain. I couldn't stop myself. My eyes followed every detail in that room. Kevin's every move drew me in. His body, carefully sculpted and strong, captured my attention. The way his muscles shifted under his skin, the way his clothes clung to him, it all created a magnetic pull I couldn't resist. Once again, I was struck by how handsome he was, blonde hair, green eyes, and an air of confidence that was both safe and dangerously alluring. It all left me shaken. Even guilt started to bubble up inside me, but it wasn't enough to stop the storm of emotions swirling in my chest. Watching Kevin move, noticing every little thing about him, left me breathless, overwhelmed by a cocktail of guilt, loneliness, and excitement all at once. But I didn't stop. My eyes stayed locked on him. I watched a little longer. Kevin moved as if unsure, pulling on his shirt and then reaching for a towel before heading toward the shower. In that moment, every line of his body, every muscle seemed almost closer than it was. My heart raced with a thrill. I didn't want to admit we were so close, and yet there was still this invisible distance between us. And then he noticed. His eyes met mine, catching me in the act. Time froze. My heart pounded, my face flushed hot. I wanted to pull back, to disappear, but my body didn't move. Without a word, Kevin stepped closer. I could feel every step, every shift in the air as he approached. Something was about to happen. I didn't know what, but I knew I couldn't stop it. Kevin reached out his hand, steady and confident. The confusion and uncertainty in my eyes must have caught his attention. There was something different in the air, something that shifted everything. And then, without saying a word, he took my hand and led me toward the bed. No explanations, no words, just the feeling of his hand guiding me gently but deliberately. In that moment, something changed. Slowly but undeniably, everything changed. The tension in the room hit its peak. My heart raced, and yet time seemed to stand still. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I couldn't fully grasp what I was thinking or feeling, but there was something I'd never felt before. Kevin's hands stayed wrapped around mine. My eyes were wide with shock, but at the same time I couldn't help but feel drawn to him. We were so close, I could hear every breath he took, and I knew he could hear my heartbeat pounding away in my chest. I could tell I had his attention, but the look in his eyes, the things he said, only made the moment more complicated. Kevin spoke slowly but with confidence. "You're beautiful," he said, his voice carrying a tone that felt like it came from somewhere deeper. "Tonight's the first time I've felt something like this. There's this different pull I feel toward you." For a moment, I couldn't fully grasp what he was saying. My mind was flooded with conflicting thoughts, but Kevin kept going. "I should have been upset by what you did. I should have wanted to run when I realized you noticed me. But I didn't. I liked it. That boldness of yours, that inability to hold back your beauty, it's pulling me closer to you." He said every word, every syllable he spoke drew me in closer. My mind was a mess, but my heart was racing in my chest. Shocked, I took a step, but it was instinctive, unintentional. Slowly, I moved closer to him, every step amplifying the confusion inside me. I couldn't stop myself. His words were breaking me down and drawing me in all at once. Tears started welling up in my eyes. The way Kevin showed his interest, the boldness of his confession, it was beyond anything I could have expected. I felt myself getting lost in the closeness, drawn in by a growing sense of passion that I didn't fully understand but couldn't resist. That night, what started as a strange and unexpected moment turned into hours of exhilarating intensity. Even though the shock lingered in my eyes, the pull I felt toward him grew stronger with every passing second. The night went beyond anything I could have imagined. When Kevin finally got up to head to the shower, I realized I had completely lost track of time. 2 hours had passed, 2 hours where the world outside had faded away, leaving just the two of us in this strange, undeniable connection and everything else we had experienced together. My heart was still pounding, caught in the middle of guilt and an inexplicable thrill, leaving me trapped in an internal tug-of-war. Kevin got up and left his clothes behind as he made his way to the shower, slowly, but in a way that somehow drew my attention. He didn't bother to pick up the clothes he'd left next to my robe and dress. Instead, he just grabbed his towel and walked away. In that moment, something felt irrevocably different. I couldn't quite articulate what had happened or how I felt, but my emotions clashed and churned within me. The weight of it all left me frozen. I found myself replaying the way he moved, the look in his eyes as he grabbed the towel. It stuck in my mind, looping over and over. The mix of unease and excitement inside me left me momentarily paralyzed, unsure of what to do next. Trying to pull myself together, I decided to leave the room. My mind was still a mess, but my body was speaking a different language entirely. Quickly, I threw on some clothes and grabbed my nightgown. That strange warmth coursing through me with every step made everything feel even more intense. It was such a bizarre sensation. I needed to do something. I had to get through this night, but how? I tried to find answers to the questions spinning in my head as I made my way to the kitchen. In the kitchen, I sifted through the clutter until I found a bottle of wine. Opening a bottle felt like the best way to calm my nerves and ease into the night. With slightly trembling hands, I popped the cork and poured my first glass. The red liquid swirling into the glass felt almost hypnotic, stirring every sense I had. I took a couple of sips and let out a deep breath as I waited for Kevin to finish his shower. I was still tense, but deep down I knew something different was coming that night. My thoughts were an incoherent mess, but every moment felt connected, and this tangled web of emotions I was living in felt like something I would never be able to forget. Kevin stepped out of the shower and came back into the room, now wearing just a pair of shorts. His hair was still damp, and water droplets clung to his skin, glistening under the light. He looked completely at ease, maybe too at ease. That comfort he carried only seemed to make the tension between us even more obvious. He moved toward the kitchen quickly, his gaze landing on me. There was a careful yet conflicted intensity in his eyes. It was like we were both caught in this strange moment together, unable to escape it. "Wine?" I asked, my throat dry. I didn't know how to resist the pull I felt toward him, the way his presence seemed to awaken something in me. My voice came, out shaky, but if he noticed, he didn't let on. Kevin walked closer, lifting his glass. There was something in his eyes, something I'd never seen before. "You know," he said slowly, his gaze fixed on mine, "coming here might have been one of the best decisions I've ever made. Being here with you like this, talking, sharing this night." He stepped even closer, closing nearly all the space between us. Then he sat down on the chair beside me, his knees almost brushing mine. Everything felt so near, so intense, that I had no idea how to react. "I just wanted to feel it," I said, my voice trembling slightly as the words left my mouth. "This night, it's made me feel alive in a way I haven't in a long time. It's like something's changing, isn't it?" I raised my glass a little, my hands unsteady, yet calm in a way I couldn't explain as I looked into his eyes. The mess of emotions swirling inside me only seemed to grow. Kevin gave me a soft smile. "I know, Carmen, being here with you, it's beyond anything else. So close, so real. This is one of the most incredible things I've ever experienced." We were so close now that I could hear his breathing. He leaned in just a little more, narrowing the already tiny gap between us. "I think you feel it too, don't you?" he asked, his eyes shining with a kind of light I hadn't noticed before. "This connection between us, it's not just physical. There's something deeper here. I can feel it." I tilted my head slightly, my words catching in my throat. "Yeah, we're so close," I whispered, shrinking the space even more until I could feel the heat radiating from him. "But it's hard to process. I don't know what to do." My eyes darted toward his and then away, my heartbeat hammering against my chest again. Kevin stepped in even closer and gently placed his hand in mine. The warmth of his skin against mine made time feel like it stopped for a moment. "Carmen, you don't have to say anything," he said softly. "But there's something between us. I know it." No matter what, we stayed quiet for a while, our eyes locked together in that silence. Everything we weren't saying somehow became louder. When Kevin saw the emotional turmoil reflected in my eyes, he took another step forward and carefully cupped my face with his hands. He took a deep breath before leaning toward me. "Carmen," he said, his voice low and tender. "Tonight, I realized Frank was a lucky man." His words stirred something unsettling inside me, but at the same time, they unearthed something much deeper. To feel the way Kevin saw me, to hear what he thought, it sent me spiraling into a whirlwind of emotions I couldn't untangle. In that moment, I didn't know what I was supposed to do or how I was supposed to feel, but what he said hit me harder than anything else. That's hard to hear, Kevin," I said, my voice shaking. "But at the same time, it's real." Kevin pulled his hands away from my face, standing right in front of me, his eyes never leaving mine. When his gaze locked with mine, I felt something I'd never felt before, a warmth, a connection. "You're not alone, Carmen," he said softly, his hand sliding gently to my waist. "I'll be here for you no matter what." Those words wiped away every chaotic thought in my mind right now. In this moment, this night, everything felt deeper than I could comprehend. We were so close, and every word, every glance carried its own.
Wait, Kevin, I wish, I whispered, trying to hide the emotional whirlwind in my eyes. It's so hard to feel this, to understand what I'm feeling, what I'm supposed to do.
But everything he said made this night feel even more meaningful. Kevin's hands moved gently along my back as he stepped closer. "I know, Carmen," he said, his voice soft, almost like a whisper. "But there's something I feel, something real."
I followed my heart tonight. I wanted to be here with you, to share this with you. And I know you feel it too. No matter what, you're not alone. I'll always be here. In that moment, I felt everything between us shift into something entirely different.
This night carried a weight neither of us could ignore, and no matter how hard it was, I knew I had to accept what I was feeling. Kevin's words, his hands, his presence, they were pulling me closer to him, fighting it, resisting it. It didn't make sense anymore. As Kevin clasped my hands tightly in his, we moved together through the cluttered chaos of the unpacked house, surrounded by half-empty boxes and scattered belongings. Each step filled the space with something new. The mess didn't matter anymore. It was just us, lost in this moment. When we reached the room, I gently shut the door behind us. The warmth in the air, the tangle of emotions and the closeness between us, it all felt like it was carrying us to a new beginning. Peace, excitement, confusion, they all swirled together in that moment. I didn't think about the past or worry about the future. It was just this, just now. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was ours, and it only deepened the connection we both felt. I wanted this night to stretch as long as it could. With every passing second, the bond between us grew stronger, the intensity magnified. Whatever the future held, one thing was certain. This night, this feeling meant everything. As the door softly clicked shut, I somehow knew we would never forget this night. Whatever came next, one thing was clear. Life was about to change. This night was the beginning of something new. I hope you enjoyed my story. It's been such an exciting journey to share this with you, and it means the world to me. If you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and make sure to turn on notifications so you'll know the moment a new chapter drops. Your likes and comments are so valuable to me. I love hearing your thoughts and feelings about the story. It motivates me more than you know and helps me create even more for you. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next story.